ToonGrin.
Gravity Falls. Now, when it comes to cartoons, I like a lot of them, but very few cartoons become icons to me. The cartoons that I carry with me all throughout the rest of my life ever since I was even a kid. Shows like Superman the Animated Series, or Disney's Gargoyles, or Samurai Jack. Those are some of the best shows to me in terms of storytelling and characters, and I feel like I get that with Gravity Falls even now into my adulthood. I think it could be an icon. Gravity Falls is an amazing show. It's like if someone took the X-Files, animated it for kids, and then crossed it with the insanity of a Gainax anime, while still keeping it mature and dark, and still being comical and heartfelt. When you think about it, with all those components, you'd think it'd be a train wreck, but it's actually a rather unique blend that just works out perfectly. So with Gravity Falls coming to an end, I want to look back on this show. I want to see what were the episodes that made me fall in love with this series. Now, when it comes to top 10 lists, most people tend to give their breakdown with the value system from least to greatest. That's fine, but I don't work like that. If I like something, flat out, I just like it. It's really that simple. And yes, while I love all of Gravity Falls, these are the episodes that stood out to me, what really kept me locked into the series and see it from start to finish, and is just happy to see where it's gone and where it's going and how it's going to end. This is the top 10 episodes of Gravity Falls. Number 10. Season 1, Episode 1, Tourist Trapped. Simply put, the pilot for Gravity Falls sets up everything. Our lead characters, Dipper and Mabel Pines, are a pair of young twins sent to spend the summer in Gravity Falls, Oregon with their great uncle, or known as by his Bowman 2, Grunkle Stan, the local shyster of the Mystery Shack, which is basically those shops you always hear about where they have a bunch of crap on the walls and a bunch of fake animals and exhibits and shit just to take your money.
Ladies and gentlemen, behold, the Sass Crotch!
Yeah, he runs one of those things. He's a total shyster. At the shop, you even get to meet his two employees, the ever-lovable man-child and handyman of the shack, Seuss, and the laid-back yet surprisingly hardcore lumberjane, Wendy. The cast is great, but to really know the full effects of this show and how simply brilliant it is, you just need to watch the first 15 seconds of the episode.
Summer break.
So do you want cheese on that, hon?
Sure, Pie.
A time for leisure, recreation, and taking her easy. Unless you're me.
This sets the tone perfectly. Top that off with the mystery about a bizarre journal found in the woods and gnomes that want to make Mabel their queen.
Will you join us in holy matrimony? Matrimony. Blah. Can't talk today.
You know, I'd say this makes more sense if you watch the show, but nah, man, this show's just cray-cray. The pilot does an outstanding job from its cast of characters, its action, its comedy, its weirdness, and it sets everything in motion. You take so many punches to the gut from what this show is doing that it just leaves you just to buckle over and vomit about how great it is. Number 9. Season 1, Episode 4, The Hand That Rocks the Mabel. This episode's great because it actually introduces our first villain for the series. We are introduced to Gideon Gleeful. And Gideon's something special.
We've got to talk. Mabel isn't joining you tonight. She doesn't want to see you anymore. She's kind of weirded out by you, no offense.
So what you're saying is, you've come between us.
4th episode of the series, and we got a homicidal stalker ex-boyfriend. Yeah, he tries to hook up with Mabel because he has a crush on her. She dumps him because he's pretty freaking creepy. And then he just goes off the deep end and starts, like, blaming Dipper for everything. It's funny that we have a kid show, a Disney kid show, and he flat out attempts murder in his debut episode.
And I'm gonna make sure you never lie to me again, friend.
It's amazingly good proof to show you just how dark this show is gonna go. It's cool because this show introduces Gideon, and when you first watch the series, you think that, oh, it's gonna pull a monster of the week sort of thing, you know? It's gonna have this monster for this week, they beat it, hooray, move on, next monster, beat it, hooray. And they still kind of do that, but at the same time, they're adding more to this mythos that's actually growing. Sure, look, we got Gideon now, who's a villain and who's hilariously part Southern televangelist and part psychotic butterball, but then we add to this. We get to see that there's another journal, the number 2 journal. So Dipper has number 3, Gideon has number 2. So where's number 1? The mystery keeps growing. That's fantastic, and it's great because it could pull back so many audience members to enjoy this kind of stuff. And the fact that Gideon's got this nutso revenge streak and his hilariously interesting relationship with his dad, Bud Gleeful.
I can buy and sell you, old man!
Fair enough.
Gideon Gleeful is, quite honestly, a delightful villain. Number 8. Season 1, Episode 10, Fight Fighters. You guys ever see Wreck-It Ralph? Now, if you're like me, that movie made you a nostalgia trip for old games. Well, this is even better. Fight Fighters takes the concept, and it's a nostalgia vacation. We got references to Altered Beast, Donkey Kong, Street Fighters, and Final Fight.
Oh, my car!
This episode also brings to the foreground Dipper's rivalry with Wendy's boyfriend Robbie, who's such a jerkwad throughout the show that it's just cathartic to see him get a beating.
Rumble!
Stop! I said stop!
This episode is great with its quality of humor and a good lesson on confronting obstacles, theme of starting to grow up. It's a main part of the series. I also gotta give major respect to the animation, combining pixel and traditional drawn animation. The pixel work was done by Paul Robertson, a brilliant pixel artist who also worked on the amazing Scott Pilgrim vs. the World game. Paul also worked on the 5th episode of Season 2, Seuss and the Real Girl. He is a top-notch artist, and if you haven't gotten a chance to check out his work, pop on over to his Tumblr or DeviantArt. He has some wicked artwork that any retro gamer would love.
Superpowered Ninja Turbo Neo Ultra Hyper Mega Multi Alpha Beta Extra Uber Prefix Combo!
Number 7. Season 1, Episode 12, Summerween. Now, Halloween episodes are a staple for kids' cartoons. I mean, pretty much almost any cartoon out there that's made, sooner or later, you get to the Halloween episode. That's fine. In Gravity Falls, it makes sense, especially where a show where the preliminary idea behind it is supernatural and weird crap and sci-fi crap. Makes sense for it to have a Halloween episode. If anything, by all logic, that means it should be able to do the Halloween episode better than anyone else. Or at least just do it really, really good. And here it does it really, really good. But since the show is actually taking place during summer break, the big question is, how do you do a Halloween episode where the stipulation is that the characters are on summer vacation?
Summerween! The people of this town love Halloween so much they celebrate it twice a year.
Meh, I'll buy it. After all, this is the show where rainbow puking gnomes, child murderers, and video game warriors are apparently the norm. So a monster going around to eat children?
Corny!
Yeah, I'm fine with this. Also, reference to Spirited Away. I really like how the Summerween trickster totally looks like No-Face. Sweet stuff. This episode is also just remarkable to me when it comes to the emotional investment for these characters. Watching over the episodes, you do learn to love Dipper and Mabel. I know I really grew to like these characters, but this was an episode that really cemented home the ongoing theme of growing up between the two.
We're getting older. There's not that many Halloweens left. I guess I didn't realize it was already our last one.
You know, there are so many shows out there where sibling characters only bicker. Like, that is the only character trait between them, is that they hate each other, they fight, and that's it. And while Dipper and Mabel do fight, they also reconcile and get along well like siblings should. And that's where this is really starting to elevate the show. This is solid work on the emotional level, on the storytelling level, and on the humor.
Twins!
So honestly, what's not to love about an episode that is emotionally grabbing? while also happening to have an eldritch abomination that wants to come and devour children alive.
You must trick or treat or die.
Number 6. Season 1, Episode 19, Dreamscapers. So you remember Gideon Gleeful?
And I'm gonna make sure you never lie to me again, friend.
Yeah, look, Gideon was kind of spooky and everything, what with trying to kill Dipper, but this new guy... Now, just imagine this, would you? What if we had a horror beyond the minds of mortal men, and somehow that was gifted to our universe?
Oh, Gravity Falls, it is good to be back. Name's Bill Cipher. And I take it you're some kind of living ventriloquist dummy?
Bill is a grade A psychopath.
Hey, look what I can do. Deer teeth, for you, kid.
You're insane!
Sure I am, what's your point?
Bill is everything you want in a Disney villain. He's funny and frightening all at the same time, which is something that Frozen didn't get. He is a monster of the highest caliber.
You're next!
Cool, we're next!
Bill just feels different from other Disney villains. We've had Disney villains that kind of want things. Hades wanted Olympus, King Candy wanted fame. Bill, while wanting to escape into our reality, honestly feels like he's just pure madness personified.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Bill is like a Lovecraftian horror brought to life in the form of a snappy dresser. Add to some mystery with Bill's connection to the Pines twins, the journal, the author, and introduce some good character building with Dipper and Stan. Again, the theme of growing up comes into play again in this episode, with Stan recalling how he was a wimp, just like Dipper, but how both are growing up and becoming stronger. This is good characterization, and then atop that we have arguably one of the scariest Disney villains in the form of this terrifying little triangle.
But know this.
A darkness approaches. A day will come in the future when everything you care about will change. Until then, I'll be watching you. I'll be watching you.
Number 5. Season 2, Episode 7, Society of the Blind Eye. You ever watch an episode to a show and it just turns everything onto its head? It's that kind of episode that you watch it and then you have to go back and watch everything that preceded it. Back in Season 1, Episode 2, there's an episode, The Legend of the Gobblewonker, where we are introduced to a character called Old Man McGucket, the local kook of Gravity Falls. And then once you watch Society of the Blind Eye, it brings up a lot of questions, but also puts everything into perspective. It makes you wonder things like, how does McGucket, who's supposed to be just senile, create, such technological marvels?
I made lots of robots in my day, like when my wife left me and I created a homicidal pterodactyltron, or when my pal Ernie didn't come to my retirement party and I constructed an 80-ton shame bot that exploded the entire downtown area.
Or how does a town with so much weirdness seemingly go unnoticed by the populace?
So I was attacked by this magic kung fu guy that was throwing, balls of fire at me? I kicked his butt, though.
Robbie, speak honestly.
I was saved by a 12-year-old.
The answer to that? The Society of the Blind Eye. So we have an Illuminati-like order that goes around abducting people who have ever seen these strange happenings of Gravity Falls and then erases their minds, leaving them blissfully ignorant.
Lazy Susan, what do you know of little bearded men?
My mind is clear thanks to the Society of the Blind Eye.
From a storytelling angle, this is brilliant. You're explaining something and you're keeping your continuity in check. You're not changing everything you built up to this point. If anything, you're just adding to it. It's perfect. This is great from a storytelling narrative. The episode also just does a good job of establishing McGucket as a tragic figure. I mean, this was a character that was just meant to be goofy and weird, in a lot of ways kind of like Ice King from Adventure Time, who also got an amazing frickin' reveal in that show. And it's done here in Gravity Falls. Megumi was going to be this brilliant genius with a bright future, and because of the Society of the Blind Eye, a society he invented, and they're using his invention to erase people's minds, we get to see this backfire and destroy his life. This once promising super scientist has gone down a road where he has slowly degenerated into a senile country bumpkin who's lost everything. He's lost his future, he's lost his life, he's even lost his family. And now this is who he is.
Guru! Zerxivi! Gersmatov!
Number 4. Season 2, Episode 8, Blendin's Game. This is a really good episode. You see, with Gravity Falls, the show's primary focus is on the Pines family, and that's fine, but this is a Seuss episode, which really there are only 2 of out of the series, Blendin's Game and Seuss and the Real Girl. And while the Real Girl is funny, Blendin's Game does actually a really better job with comedy, and overall is just much more emotional.
Sorry, champ. Couldn't make it this year. Real busy again. See you next year for sure. Dad.
This episode is also a return for one of my favorite side characters, Blendin Blandin, who made his debut in Season 1 in Episode 9, The Time Traveler's Pig. Blendin's Game is a revenge episode, with Blendin returning for revenge against the Pine Twins for basically ruining his life.
It was after you stole my time device to win, you stupid pig! I was cast out of the time anomaly removal crew, my whole life's purpose. And then I was given 10 squared life sentences in time prison.
So now that Blendin's back, he has come to challenge the Pine Twins to Globnar.
It's gladiatorial time combat! The winner gets a precious time wish, and then decides the loser's fate!
No, please!
Yeah, again, this is a kid show. Honestly though, this is just a good episode for Seuss. It reveals his backstory and shows that he has abandonment issues with his dad. This is surprising to me because most often it seems Disney just likes to kill off the parents. Matter of fact, it seems really rare that Disney will ever have the parents just, frankly, be bad parents. I would argue Treasure Planet is one of the few exceptions I can honestly think of. This episode does show the tragedy of losing a parent without them dying. Instead of, Seuss's dad being dead, well, he's just a deadbeat. He abandoned his son, and because of it, it affected Seuss. It made him start hating his birthday, because that's when it all happened.
You guys didn't know, so it's not your fault, but Seuss hates his birthday.
What?
It's a total mystery. I guess he's been like this since he was a kid. Some weird personal biz.
This might also be why Seuss is such a man-child. It's established throughout the series that Seuss is...
Dude, check it out. Bud Island.
Seuss, you rapscallion!
Yeah, he's pretty childish. So in a way, this episode justifies that the trauma of constant neglect from his dad has really stunted his growth as a person. Overall, it's a great episode though. It's got a very heartfelt ending, and its use of laser tag amuses me.
Oh, I know it doesn't seem that challenging now, but just wait until they turn on that fog machine. You'll be done for. You just wait until you... Hit! 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 Oh, man.
Number 3. Season 2, Episode 10, Northwest Mansion Mystery. This episode is dark.
Ancient blood and blackened skies, the forest dark shall once more rise. I smell a northwest.
And I love it. This episode really goes to the limit with just how twisted this show gets. This episode also does a great job with the returning character Pacifica Northwest, who debuted in Season 1, Episode 7, Double Dipper, as nothing more than a shallow bully character.
I'm Mabel.
That sounds like a fat old lady's name.
I'll take that as a compliment.
May the better partier win.
Nice meeting you! She's going down.
Pacifica really started out as nothing special. In fact, the series flat out just acknowledges how much of a blank slate she actually was.
Oh, yeah? Well, I want a rematch! You walking one-dimensional bleach blonde Valley Girl stereotype!
Pacifica was just a bully archetype, which sort of made sense. I mean, they already established Gideon, and then they would eventually bring in Bill, who both serve as grand threats to the narrative, while Pacifica was just sort of a bully character to sort of focus on the idea of real-world issues, but at the same time, she just sort of lacked any credibility outside being the bully trope. Luckily, Northwest Mansion Mystery decided to remedy this by fleshing out her and her family.
Put the oyster fork at an angle. We're not animals, man.
We get to see Pacifica's connection to her parents, and honestly, it's pretty uncomfortable to watch.
I'm sorry, they made me. I should have told you, but...
Now, this episode does a good job of showing how detrimental Pacifica's parents are, and she's developed into this terrible person, and how she's starting to acknowledge it, and how it's emotionally crushing her.
You want to know why this room was locked up? This is what I found in here. A painted record of every horrible thing that my family's ever done. Lying, cheating, and then there's me. I lied to you just because I'm too scared to talk back to my stupid parents. You were right about me. I am just another link in the world's worst chain.
Now, while the dark tones and drama is in top form on this episode, there's still that nice comedic charm that I've grown to expect from Gravity Falls.
Yes, it's happening. My heart, once as hard as oak, now grows soft like more of a birch or something.
I feel that the development for Pacifica really helped to make her more than just some bully, and instead it made her more of a person. This episode showed the detriment of parental bullying, and showed that a person can go against how they're nurtured and instead act on their better nature. It's actually a surprisingly deep idea when you think about it for a kid's show. It was nice to see that Pacifica stood up to her parents and she changed. She went from a one-note antagonist into a fully realized character, and that's what the show does. It even takes side characters and turns them into masterpieces.
Pacifica, you are not like the other Northwests. I feel lumber justice.
Number 2. Season 2, Episode 11. Not What He Seems. You remember how I mentioned in Society of the Blind Eye that everything changed for McGucket? The same happens here with Stan. Now keep in mind, up until this point, Stan has always been of, let's say, of a questionable nature.
You call that Ben Franklin? He looks like a woman! Uh-oh.
Oh, the county jail is so cold.
Seuss, would it be wrong to punch a child? You see, I lied to you. In addition, I've been parking in handicapped spaces, shoplifting fireworks, and smuggling endangered animals across multiple state lines. Also, you're fat.
Stan, for the most part, is a good-natured person who loves his niece and nephew, even if he has a few less admirable moments with Dipper and Mabel.
Whoa, children fighting! I can sell this!
This episode's done very finale style. We got Black Op helicopters, G-Men, and we get to learn the truth of Stan's activities that were started all the way back in episode 1. We get a full scope of his character, from his irresponsible nature.
Here you go, sweetie. Set something on fire for your Grunkle Stan.
I am the god of destruction!
To his heartfelt nature.
I wanted to say that you're gonna hear some bad things about me, and some of them are true. But trust me, everything I've worked for, everything I care about, it's all for this family.
Mabel, what if he's lying? This thing could destroy the universe. Listen to your head.
Look into my eyes, Mabel. You really think I'm a bad guy?
Honestly, in this episode, Stan's character begins to shape full circle. We get to learn of his connection to the journals, his connection to his family. We get to learn that what he's been hiding this whole time. And honestly, for me, it's just an epic episode.
What? Who is that?
The author of the journals. My brother.
Number 1. Season 2, Episode 12, A Tale of Two Stans. Following the last episode, Tale of Two Stans does the same for Stan that it did for McGucket. It adds so much more to the character, and we get to learn of Stan and the author of the journal, his twin brother Stanford, which, to a degree, I believe we all probably guessed that Stan had a twin brother that was going to be the author. It's actually sort of an inside joke inside the series, too.
You had a twin brother all along? That's the big twist we were waiting for?
What a ripoff!
I predicted that like a year ago.
We get to see them as kids, how they become best friends, that they grow up together and watch out for one another and remain close. Until, of course, the inevitable rift that makes them go their separate ways. Stan goes on to become a shyster across America and various other countries.
Hi, I'm Steve Bynington. Are you sick of bandages that are hard to remove? Then what you need is the ripoff. The ripoff won't give you rashes. I repeat, it won't give you rashes. It gave you rashes.
Well, Ford manages to make something of himself in college, becoming friends to his scientific genius buddy, McGucket, and becoming a paranormal investigator.
There were anomalies everywhere, and the more I looked, the more I saw.
We even see how Stanford goes missing for the next 30 years and how it honestly affects Stan's life and changes everything about him as a person. This was a guy that was so selfish that after losing his brother, it completely changed him.
I didn't get much sleep that night. Or the night after that. I tried for weeks to turn that dumb machine back on. But without the other two journals, it was hopeless.
This episode has such great emotion to it, and it brings so much to the front with the creation of the journals, Stan's history, and even adds more to McGucket's character. This is a truly phenomenal episode, and it's a mid-season episode, but feels like a finality quality episode. We're talking in terms of animation and in storytelling. It feels like they pulled out everything in the off chance that somehow they were to get canceled. And that's why this episode makes it in my list.
You really aren't gonna thank me, are you? Fine, on one condition. You stay away from the kids. I don't want them in danger. Because as far as I'm concerned, they're the only family I have left.
Now, with Gravity Falls coming to a close, I'm excited to see where this show's gonna end. While at the same time, I still kind of want it to continue because the mythos is there. It could continue if it wanted to. But at the same time, I'd rather be left wanting more instead of it sticking around and going stale. Yeah. And a special thanks goes out to Alex Hirsch, creator of the show. Alex, you created a series that will stay with me for the rest of my life, man. You helped cultivate a show with great animation, great voice acting, and prove that a series can be aimed at a young audience while still being appealing to an older audience.
I'll have you know that Ducktective has a big mystery element and a lot of humor that goes over kids' heads.
Thanks for the memories, Alex. And I hope you do return to Disney and bring us another amazing show. So, any episodes you think deserve to be mentioned? By all means, feel free to comment, like, and share the video. Also be sure to check out our other videos, our movie reviews, our Let's Plays. Have some fun. Thanks for watching, everyone.